What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledPeople. Alright, this story's called, "My entitled brother went against my mom's wishes to stay at home, and then he brought Brovid-19 into the house. Throwaway because some of my family uses Reddit, so my 15 non-binary, I'm assuming, brother, who is 17, male, developed an entitled attitude and overall disrespect to authority, mostly towards the female gender. It started when he was about 11. Our parents, 55 male and 54 female, raised us, 5 kids, 19 female, 24 female, 26 female, 17 male, and 15 non-binary, to be kind to everybody and have love and respect for all humans. But along the way, my brother got in with the wrong crowd, a bunch of mean boys. Entitled brother started not doing chores when asked, playing loud music late at night, arguing ridiculous points that are comparable to men wanting an International Men's Day. Here are some highlights of his behavior. When lockdown started, our sister, Erica, the 24-year-old female, had to move back home from New York City, which caused entitled brother to have to give up the big bedroom that he initially got when Erica moved out. He said she shouldn't move back in because he wanted the room. It was either she moves in or she stays on the streets of New York City. When his friends stood on a coffee table that had our mom's new MacBook on it, he stepped on the computer and broke it. He passed the blame onto one of the sisters. He listened to some podcasts run by some comedians he liked and got some ideas from them. The main one being that he thinks that Black History Month should be abolished. That was the moment I lost all respect for him. I have plenty more highlights, but they are beside the point. What really infuriated me was what happened recently. During the beginning of the pandemic, we made sure to only get essentials delivered, and during the delivery, we wear masks and gloves while hauling the goods in, then sanitize, wash hands, etc. Entitled brother thought this was bubble boy behavior and said he wouldn't bother doing that when helping with grocery runs, as if he ever did help with them. Then after a while, he started pestering our parents to be able to go outside with his friends. Our parents were slowly worn down by his ramblings. He broke them over the months. They negotiated. They had lost their authority over him. It was not parents telling a kid what to do, it was a negotiation. For so long, our parents offered him more and more. Why don't you Zoom call them? How about we let you speak to them from the other side of the front garden then? Okay, how about the back garden? Fine, a walk, but only if you social distance and wear masks. Okay, fine, how about you stay 2 meters apart from them, please? Each damn time. Each goodness damn time. He says something that brings out a rage in me and my sisters that we will never know in anything else. This horrible little man says to his mother, begging for him to listen, he says, "That is not how I do things." He broke my mother's will. She has barely been the same. This strong, independent, kind, and good-willed woman was broken by this demon. She let him go for walks with his friends, but she no longer speaks to him. We try to support her, but she has not been the same. Every night, without fail, she makes him dinner at 8. He comes in at 11 to 12, and if anyone is awake, he will find them and try to start a beef fest about her for it. Turns out, he tested positive for Brovid at a walk-in. So did mom. She is in her 50s and a pernicious anemic. He doesn't see any wrongdoing. None of us will admit it to him, but we all now tell each other and ourselves the same thing. This man is not our brother, not our son, not somebody we want to know. Yikes. I don't know. It just seems like, he's like at an age where he wants to be rebellious and anything, it seems like, I don't know for sure, but like, you know, it seems like anything that his parents tell him to do, it's just them trying to put limits on him as opposed to trying to look out for him and everyone else. And so I guess, you know, maybe to him, it's like when he's disobeying his parents, he's just, challenging their authority and trying to be more independent, but not seeing, any potential reasons why they might be preventing him from doing this. Obviously, he is aware of the pandemic. I don't know. This guy, hopefully he grows out of this kind of nonsense, but don't disown him outright. Come on. Everyone's getting sick of the pandemic, but I hope everyone ends up being okay. Alright, this story's called Entitled Employee Gets Hard Lesson About Being an Adult. I've been a retail manager for a drugstore chain for over a decade. I've had a wide spectrum of employees, but this employee, we'll call him Ken, was the worst of them all! At the end of the night, the employees share responsibilities on cleaning, sweeping, and organizing the store. Ken constantly gave a response that he didn't sign up to be a janitor. He refused to do anything else beyond cashiering, and there were times he lacked in that as well. Ken was constantly calling off and ditching work. After we gave him a written warning and him not showing up became excessive, we cut his hours. When he continued to ditch, his hours were cut to the bare minimum. Shortly after, Ken started to whine for a raise, specifically an increase of $10 per hour. Me being the shift manager, I do not make $10 more per hour than Ken. He started to complain that he wasn't paid enough, so he couldn't pay his rent, adding on that we would all have to answer for it. I reminded him that the company was paying commission on a luxury skincare line, $5 commission per product. Sell 2 an hour, you got your $10 raise. He whined that it was too much work. A customer who is the manager of a movie theater offered him a part-time job. He was fired a week later for bad attendance, 2 no-shows and 3 tardies. I told him that the local car dealership was hiring. They were paying the same we paid per hour plus commission. Ken scoffed and said that he didn't want a sales job. I told him that the local Red Lobster was hiring. Ken scoffed and said serving was too much work. Ken constantly complained that we only criticized him and never praised him. I told him praise is earned, not given. I believe somewhere in Ken's mind he was doing a great job and was irreplaceable. Quite often, Ken said he was gonna play in the NFL and be extremely wealthy someday. He also said that his parents kicked him out of their house and made him get a job, ruining his dreams. At this time, I had several employees who had just graduated high school, this being their first job. Ken was 28 years old, only a year younger than me. This is the type of behavior I was expecting from my teen employees, not someone in his late 20s. I think it's safe to say that Ken wanted to get paid a lot for doing nothing and didn't realize he's an adult. So one day, another manager and I had to bring Ken back into the office to talk to him about his whining and an incident. Ken tried to get out of us if he was going to get fired. We told him the store manager was going to decide. When we wouldn't give a straight answer, Ken said he quit and left his name badge behind. He continued walking out the door, scoffing, saying how this place sucks, he's out of here for good, and that we were going to be sorry. That manager and I both wrote affidavits saying what happened. I had all the other on-duty employees write affidavits describing what Ken said. Ken came back the next day to collect his paycheck. He left saying we would all pay for what we did to him, and that we'd all be sorry. I think in Ken's mind, he thought he was a star employee. A few weeks later, we get a notification that Ken had filed for unemployment. Thanks to all of our affidavits and some video footage, it was proof enough that Ken quit on his own accord, meaning no unemployment. Some of you might be asking why Ken had not been fired early on. Ken was black and kept screaming discrimination and racism at management. There was another black worker, great employee. HR had been notified of his claim. Under HR's advice to prevent discrimination lawsuits, document more bad acts and poor workmanship. So far, we had received no lawsuits from Ken, and I believe his statute of limitations has expired. Yikes, man. That guy needs to find some work ethic. Or just find a job that he would enjoy. I don't know. I just hope Ken finds his way because, I don't think the way the world works is gonna work for him. Alright, this story's called I Defeated a Karen with Witchcraft. I'm not even sure how to start this one, so I'll just tell you the cast of major characters. There's me, Sentry, a crow, and Karen, a pompous weirdo. This happened around a year ago, but I kept hesitating on whether or not it was worth being told, and then I had to think of a sufficiently clickbaity title. So, since moving into the apartment, I'd lost the ability to walk and needed a wheelchair, but my landlord wouldn't let me have a ramp. So since I didn't have any friends or family and disability services in Kansas are, well, disability services in Kansas, I had to do something else for social interaction. I started throwing torn up pieces of stale bread and potato chip crumbs outside, which attracted a few types of bird. One time a hawk came by and ate one of the sparrows I was watching. But if you love nature, you have to love all of it, not just the passive grazing animals. So I didn't chase it off. The hawk made eye contact with me through the window and gave me a look like, "What you gonna do?" Later, some crows started coming by. So, to feed the crows, I started getting popcorn and birdseed in my grocery deliveries. One of the crows usually perched in the tree overlooking my front door. If I didn't put popcorn out that day, she'd fly down and knock on the window next to my bed. In the winter, I'd see her footprints on my patio going up to my front door before she knocked on the screen. It wasn't just her either. Once she saw that I had food for her, she'd summon the rest of her murder. My neighbors saw this, and one of the neighbors came to talk to me through my window. Her cat was very much enjoying the show. We became friends, and she let me know that the car that kept parking in front of her apartment had a woman that gave her the creeps. Karen, enter stage left. Your other left. You know what? We'll just move the stage over to where you're already standing. I had seen the car enough times, but didn't really pay attention. But after what I was told, I started to. When my neighbor brought her dog out to go potty, Karen would glare at her. Karen didn't even live in our complex. My neighbor would park right in front of her own apartment, and she worked 2 full-time jobs, and people would speed down our road all the time. It made sense she'd park where she did. But Karen would show up and park there and refuse to move if asked. So the neighbor had to park across the street at the school parking lot instead and walk back. What was Karen even doing? She showed up, parked outside the neighbor's yard, sat there smoking an entire pack of cigarettes, then drive away, glaring at anyone that was anywhere near her while she was around, even if it was their own home. I brought this up with the landlord, who said that the road our front door faced wasn't part of the complex, so they didn't care. The police said she wasn't doing anything illegal, so they didn't care. I thought it was creepy and stalky, and so did my neighbor, but I guess our opinions didn't count. Well, by this time, I had become pretty good friends with Sentry. I had a particularly bad fall one day. I fall down and hurt myself every day due to my lack of any kind of home help, but I'm used to it. One day it was worse than usual. I had to call the paramedics. Karen had since chosen slightly further back spots to park along our curb and was now choosing to not get out of the way for the ambulance that was trying to get me to the emergency room. When I got home, I decided that it was the last straw. If no human was going to help us against Karen, I knew who would. I could definitely rely on her. She came to check on me far more than any human ever did. I popped 2 bags of popcorn, and as soon as I saw Karen light up a cigarette, walked outside. I held up one of the bags of popcorn, shaking it. Sentry was already there in the tree looking at me, but I liked going the extra mile for her just like she did for me. I walked right up to Karen's car. She wasn't even looking at me. She was busy looking down at something and smoking. I opened the bag and dumped it all over the hood of her car. Then I did the other one and walked inside. Alfred Hitchcock would have been proud of you, Sentry. I know my neighbor and I were, since Karen never came back. I love stories of bird buddies, man. There was that other story I read not that long ago of the kid who kind of befriended a murder of crows, and those crows attacked the bully and the bully's parents and everything until they moved. Badass stuff. Because they could just swoop in and, come to your rescue whenever. And yeah, they're just cool. They're cool. And they're not like reptiles who don't have any sort of feelings of affection toward you. Birds can actually freaking love you, and that's great. Alright, this story's called Double Booked Seats with an Entitled Couple on a 12-Hour Flight. This happened back when I was a kid, but there are stories here that reminded me of this. Cast of characters, there's me, obviously, my brother and sister, parents, flight attendant, entitled woman, entitled husband. Okay. The situation. We were on a flight from Miami to Bolivia as a family of 5 with 3 kids under 12. We're getting on the flight, sat down, when entitled woman and entitled husband come up to my row. I'm sitting in the same row as brother and sister. "Excuse us, you're in our seats." Me, brother, and sister have all been well versed in child travel by this time, so we pull out our individual boarding passes and show her. We're also assigned these seats.
"No, you're wrong. Let me see those."
We don't give them over. My dad comes over to see why strangers are talking to his children. "Excuse me, why are you talking to my kids?"
"They're in our seats. Look."
That's their assigned seat. They know how to read a boarding pass. By this time, we have attracted the attention of the flight attendant, who confirms that indeed, those seats had been double booked. Entitled woman and entitled husband are irate, demanding their assigned seats. Flight attendant leaves to go see what I can do for you. This whole time, entitled woman is making a big show of trying to store her bag in front of ours in the overhead bins and complaining loudly. Flight attendant returns and says, "Thank you so much for your patience. It was double booked, but it looks like we have enough seats in first class available for your party. If you could please follow me." Entitled woman and entitled husband relieved that finally someone will see reason. Entitled woman gathers her bag, and as entitled husband steps forward, flight attendant holds up her hand. "No, sir, not you. If you 3, looking at me, brother and sister, will please join us up in first class, we'll make sure that you're taken care of." Oh, shoot! The lemon-sucking look on entitled woman's face as we politely grabbed our bags and moved to the coziest laps of luxury our young selves had the fortune of lucking out on. I remember the meal making me have a headache, but the reclining seats, warm blankets, and sleep masks sure helped with all that suffering. Edited to add, thanks for all the awards and for the few of you trying to call bullcrap. Just because you don't see it as believable doesn't mean it's not true. Other people live lives and have stories that are unbelievable and also completely factual. God forbid I ever tell the story about how I came face to face with a skull at age 10. Nobody would believe that either. Yo, that makes me think of this one time. I was in New York somewhere, and I was with my cousins. I was a kid, and we were on this boat, and my cousin, she saw something like weird in the water or whatever, and so she went and grabbed it, and it felt like hair, and so she pulled it up, and she saw like this decomposing skull or head with the hair and everything still on it, and she was like, "Ah!" It was really gross. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.